In previous chapters, we witnessed the blazing battles of Europe and North Africa. If Stalingrad was Inferno of the West, then in the East, Asia, it was the Battle of Wuhan that left a bloody scar. If Nazi Germany was infamous for the Holocaust, Imperial Japan horrified the world with the Nanjing Massacre and the atrocities of Unit 731, where humans were subjected to live experiments. The war in Asia was no less brutal than that in Europe. It was the first to ignite, and the last to end in World War II. At the dawn of the 20th century, China was a fractured nation, torn apart by nationalist, communists, and warlords, each scrambling for control over every inch of territory. Chaos reigned, and power lay in the hands of those who held the guns. Across the sea, Japan had risen swiftly following the Meiji Restoration of 1868, a powerful industrial and military empire, but desperately short on natural resources. To sustain its war machine, Japan chose the path of aggression and expansion. After defeating Imperial Russia and crushing the Qing Navy, Japan turned its sights on the chaotic lands of China. In September 1931, Japan staged a Mukden incident, a railway explosion engineered by its own army, blamed on Chinese forces. Using this as a pretext, the Guandong army launched a full invasion of Manchuria. Despite having greater numbers, Zhang Xueyang's troops were poorly trained and disorganized. They were swiftly overrun. Japan then established the puppet state of Manchukuo, placing the last Qing emperor, Huai, as its figurehead ruler. This event marked not only the beginning of Japan's imperialist expansion, but also ignited a bloody war that would span more than a decade, the Asian front of World War II. Just a year after seizing Manchuria, Japan continued its advance into Inner Mongolia and northeastern China. Dozens of puppet regimes were set up to cement Tokyo's control, but Japan's hunger for resources remained unsatisfied. On the night of July 7, 1937, a minor skirmish at the Marco Polo Bridge, Lugukyo, near Beijing rapidly escalated into full-scale war. In a matter of days, both Beijing and Tianjin fell into Japanese hands. Initially, Tokyo had no intention of prolonging the conflict, but Chiang Kai-shek had lost patience. He ordered a general mobilization, sending in the Army and Air Force to surround the Japanese enclave in Shanghai, home to 30,000 civilians and 30,000 Japanese troops. On August 13, 1937, Chinese forces launched a surprise assault, triggering the Battle of Shanghai. Despite being vastly outnumbered, just 6,300 Japanese troops against 70,000 Chinese, Japan held overwhelming superiority in air and naval power. In just 3 days, Japanese air raids devastated Chinese positions. More than 200,000 Japanese reinforcements poured in soon after, and Shanghai descended into a hell's cape of smoke and fire for over 3 months. As a result, Shanghai, China's largest city and economic center at the time, fell into Japanese hands. From there, Japanese forces could easily deploy troops from the mainland via sea routes, dividing into 2 columns to push deeper into the interior. With Shanghai lost, Chinese forces retreated to defend Nanjing, the capital. They hastily constructed fortifications, but the troops were poorly trained and lacked reinforcements. Most elite units had been depleted at Shanghai, and the newly formed regiments were filled with inexperienced recruits. On December 1st, 1937, Japan launched an all-out assault on Nanjing. Tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery pounded the defenses. The lines collapsed quickly. Chinese soldiers panicked and fled. Many discarded their uniforms and melted into the civilian population. By December 12th, barely 10 days later, Nanjing fell completely. In early 1938, Tokyo still hoped to contain the conflict around Shanghai, Nanjing, and northern China, to conserve strength for an inevitable clash with the Western powers. But in reality, the central government had lost control of its generals on the battlefield. Following their rapid string of victories, Japanese commanders began unilaterally expanding the war. They attempted to strike Suzhou to eliminate Chinese resistance, but suffered a major defeat at Tairzhuang. The High Command then shifted focus toward Wuhan, the political, economic, and military heart of central China. Their goal, to crush the nationalist government and force Chiang Kai-shek to negotiate peace. The Battle of Wuhan became one of the bloodiest engagements in the Second Sino-Japanese War. Nearly 2 million troops clashed. Hundreds of aircraft fought in the skies, and Japan used chemical weapons for the first time. As Japanese forces neared Zhengzhou, Chiang Kai-shek, following the advice of Chingufu, gave a drastic order: break the levees of the Yellow River to flood enemy troops. Between June 5th to 7th, 1938, the levee of Huaiwankou was destroyed. Floodwaters surged through Hunan, Anhui, and Jiangsu provinces, submerging thousands of square kilometers of farmland. The toll: over 400,000 drowned, 10 million displaced. The largest man-made disaster of the 20th century. Despite the devastation, Japan captured Wuhan on October 27, 1938, forcing the nationalist government to relocate to Chongqing. From this point, the war settled into a long stalemate. By 1940, Japan was overstretched, struggling to control vast, occupied territories. Every village taken came at the cost of thousands of lives. Tokyo established puppet regimes to govern the conquered zones, most notably the Nanjing government under Wang Jingwei. But brutal massacres of civilians, especially in Nanjing and Suzhou, sowed deep resentment among the Chinese people. Ironically, many Chinese who worked under Japanese authorities served as spies for both the nationalists and communists. Their covert actions planted the seeds of long-term resistance. Facing overwhelming pressure from Japan, the Chinese factions had no choice but to form a temporary alliance. The united front between the nationalists and communists was born, but it was little more than a marriage of convenience. While Chiang's nationalists focused on defending major cities, the communists specialized in guerrilla warfare, striking fear into the Japanese in the forests and mountains of Shaanxi. After the flood disaster of the Yellow River, millions of refugees were displaced. The Communist Party seized the opportunity to spread propaganda and win public support. Within a few years, their ranks grew from 40,000 in 1937 to over 900,000 by 1941, becoming a formidable force. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, dragging the United States into the war. This event changed the balance of power. With American and British aid pouring into China, the nationalists scored a decisive victory at Changsha. President Franklin D. Roosevelt hailed China as one of the policemen of the world, granting the country unprecedented international stature. Japan grew alarmed and swiftly invaded Southeast Asia to cut off China's supply routes. But the plan failed. The Allies opened a new supply line over the Himalayas, bringing weapons into Chongqing. In 1943, at the Cairo Conference, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Chiang Kai-shek met. They promised massive aid and pledged that China would regain Manchuria and Taiwan after the war. In 1944, Japan launched Operation Ichigo, their largest offensive in Asia, aiming to seize the railway linking Manchuria to Indochina. Initial gains were impressive, but the army became bogged down in communist guerrilla traps. Constant sabotage of railways crippled their logistics. Japan was exhausted and could no longer afford new campaigns. In 1945, Chinese forces counterattacked, retaking Hunan and Guangxi. The Soviet Union, having defeated Germany, annulled its neutrality pact with Japan and launched an invasion into Manchuria with over 1 million Red Army troops. In just 11 days, Japan's elite Guangdong army was completely annihilated. At the same time, 2 atomic bombs fell on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, breaking Japan's will to fight. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender. And on September 2nd, aboard the battleship USS Missouri, Japan officially signed the instrument of surrender. The Second Sino-Japanese War was over. A bloody chapter closed, but the wounds between the two nations have never fully healed.